Tonight, we're diving deep into the entire history of Pokémon cities and landmarks. But before we begin our journey into Pokémon lore, I want to take a moment to welcome you. Whether this is your first night here, or you've made stellar sleep part of your nightly routine, for those of you who've been joining us consistently, this is your reminder that we're continuing something special together, the sleep streak. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. I'll be tracking our progress right alongside you. Now back to the video. Close your eyes and imagine a world where the very ground beneath your feet holds the weight of 3,000 years of secrets. Picture the cobblestone streets of Reconnect City, the neon glow of saffron, and the ancient, salt-crusted stones of the abyssal ruins. We often see these places as mere stops on a journey to collect badges or fill a Pokédex, but if you look closer at the architecture, the monuments, and the ruins reclaimed by nature, you will find a silent narrative of empires that rose and fell long before the first Pokéball was ever forged. This is not just a map of a game world. This is a living, breathing history of a planet shared by humans and monsters, where every lighthouse, tower, and forest glade tells a story of survival, worship, and the relentless march of time. In the quiet moments between the battles and the glory, there is a deeper mystery waiting to be unraveled. Why do the ruins of 3 different regions share the same cryptic symbols? What caused a soaring golden tower to become a blackened grave, changing the fate of legendary beasts forever? How did a sprawling empire in Paldea collapse under the weight of its own ambition, leaving behind only crumbling watchtowers and a massive crater filled with impossible life? We are about to embark on a journey through the ages, tracing the timeline of the Pokémon world from the dawn of ancient civilizations to the bustling metropolises of the modern era. We will explore the architectural wonders inspired by our own world, from the temple-lined streets of Kyoto to the industrial heart of Manchester, and uncover how the geography of these lands shaped the culture of the people who call them home. This is a story of harmony and catastrophe. It is the tale of how a simple drought in Azalea Town could be ended by the rain dance of a slowpoke, and how the discovery of a mysterious crystal phenomenon in a deep crater could spark a 1,000-year age of exploration. It is a chronicle of how humanity learned to live alongside creatures of godlike power, building shrines to honor them and cities to house the progress they achieved together. Whether it is the silent underwater halls of a forgotten king or the high-tech skyscrapers of Unova, every structure is a milestone in a grander design. As the world outside grows quiet, let yourself drift into the lore of these legendary landmarks. We will walk through the misty woods of Galar, sail to the tropical reaches of Alola, and climb the snowy peaks of Sinnoh. We will witness the birth of the first Pokédex in the wilds of Hisui and see how the invention of modern technology allowed trainers to cross oceans and mountain ranges, forever changing the ecosystem of the world. The history of Pokémon is written in stone, wood, and steel. It is a history of legends that walk among us and the cities we built to welcome them. Relax, settle in, and let the centuries unfold. Our journey through the entire history of Pokémon cities and landmarks begins now. Deep beneath the waves off Undella Town's pristine shores, the abyssal ruins lie shrouded in eternal twilight. Their colossal stone chambers whispering secrets from 3,000 years past. You can almost feel the cold currents swirling through crumbling archways as you descend, your lantern casting flickering shadows on walls etched with symbols no modern tongue can fully decipher. This submerged labyrinth, older than any standing city in the Pokémon world, holds the distinction of bearing the earliest dated writing system, known to trainers and scholars alike, a silent script that predates even the grandest tales of legendary guardians. Picture yourself navigating those flooded corridors, where pressure builds against your dive suit and schools of luminian dart like living lanterns. Each chamber demands a puzzle. Pressure plates aligned just so, currents manipulated by precise releases of Pokémon moves. Solve them, and treasures emerge from hidden alcoves. The relic items, artifacts forged in the fires of an ancient forge, their surfaces gleaming with the patina of millennia. The relic crown, ornate and imperious, evokes visions of forgotten monarchs. The relic gold and relic silver, heavy with promise of untold wealth. The relic vase, slender and ritualistic. The relic statue, carved in humanoid form, and the enigmatic relic Anthropus, bridging man and myth. These weren't mere baubles, crafted alongside the ruins themselves, 3,000 years before the events of Unova's 5th generation. They pulsed with purpose, likely tributes to royalty whose thrones dissolved into the sea. Scholars pore over faded murals depicting processions of robed figures, crowns atop their heads mirroring the relic's design, hands raised in supplication to swirling glyphs that dance like living entities. Were these kings and queens patrons of the script, commissioning scribes to immortalize their decrees on waterproof slate? Or did the relics serve as keys, unlocking chambers where royal bloodlines communed with otherworldly forces? The ruin's deepest sanctum hints at the latter, faint outlines of eyes and mouths, precursors to letters, surrounding a throne-like pedestal now barren, as if stripped by time or thief. And then there are the unknown, these ethereal Pokémon, each body a single glyph from an alphabet of 28 forms, swarm the ruins in restless patterns, defying capture as easily as they evade explanation. Eyewitness accounts from daring divers speak of them materializing from the script itself, forming words mid-water, pleas, warnings, prophecies in a tongue older than human memory. The paradox grips every archaeologist who studies the site. Did these spectral beings inspire humanity's first scribes, their forms dictating the very shapes of letters 3,000 years ago? Imagine ancient Unovans gazing into abyssal depths, mimicking the unknown's silent dance to birthrighting from nothingness. Or did humans craft the script first and the unknown, timeless observers, merely mimic it, echoing our ingenuity across eons? Evidence tilts both ways, fueling endless debates in dusty archives. Carbon dating ties the ruins' mortar to 3,000 years, before present, aligning perfectly with relic craftsmanship. Yet unknown fossils, or what pass for them, surface in strata even deeper, their glyphs indistinguishable from the walls. Relic items, when purified at the gear station, yield fragments of that primordial script, phrases like eternal watch or abyssal pact, linking them inexorably to royal lineages. Legends murmur of an emperor, crown aglow with relic power, who delved too deep, bargaining with unknown swarms for dominion over the seas. His kingdom flourished, palaces rising where Undella now basks, until hubris summoned a cataclysm, tides that swallowed all but these ruins. Divers today report chills unrelated to the water's bite, unknown formations spelling names of long-dead kings, relics humming faintly when held aloft. Is the script a warning, a map, or an invitation? The relic's royal ties suggest the latter, tools for communion between crown and cosmos. Yet the unknown paradox lingers, unresolved, a riddle etched in stone and shadow. Did they birth our words or shadow them faithfully? As these abyssal echoes fade into quieter mysteries, carved across ancient stones elsewhere, we'll uncover patterns that span regions and ruins alike. Stay with me for Chapter 2, Echoes in the Stone, where whispers from the earth itself begin to stir. 1,500 years after the relic items gleamed in the halls of the abyssal ruins, a shadow of that same ancient ambition stirred across the Pokémon world. Builders whose hands seemed guided by a single, unseen architect raised 3 vast complexes of weathered stone. the ruins of Alf in Giotto, the Tanabe ruins amid the distant Sevi Islands south of Kanto, and the Solacion ruins nestled in Sinnoh's rolling plains. These sites, separated by oceans and mountains, sprang up not in sequence, but all at once, as if a shared blueprint had rippled through the land like a forgotten command. Picture the ruins of Alf First, half buried near Violet City's whispering forests. 4 grand chambers yawn open to the sky, their walls etched with curling scripts that twist like living smoke. Step into the central puzzle room, and the floor tiles demand precision. Arrange them to mimic the soaring form of Ho-Oh, or the serpentine coil of a Kabuto fossil, and hidden doors grind apart. Unknowns swarm from the darkness then, those eyeless sentinels of script, filling the air with their eerie hum. The stones here pulse with intent, as if the ruins breathe, waiting for the right touch to awaken secrets, long sealed. Turn your gaze southward to the Tanabe ruins, scattered across the rugged shores of Sevi Island 7. 6 chambers hunker low against the sea spray. Munian, Lipua, Rixi, Viapois, Dilford, and the cryptic Scoofib. Each one challenges you with boulders scattered like forgotten game pieces. Push them into place, forming silhouettes of Pokémon etched in your mind. A Farfetch'd with its leek stalk raised high, a Sudowoodo mimicking unyielding rock, shapes that seem to dance in the fading light. Complete the puzzle, and the dummies stir, not stone at all, but living Pokémon emerging from camouflage, guardians of the deep chambers, where treasures, like the Tanabe Key, glimmer faintly. Up north in Sinnoh, the Solacion ruins burrow beneath the town's gentle hills, a labyrinth of tunnels where dust motes swirl in shafts of light. Walls here bristle with the same arcane alphabet as Alf, unknown letters begging to be traced in the air. Follow their paths without faltering, and the script ignites. Portals yawn, spilling more. Unknown into the gloom, their forms twisting into questions no voice can answer. These ruins feel alive with absence. Corridors curving just so, floors sloping to draw you deeper into chambers that mirror Tanabe's puzzles in their demand for harmony between stone and shadow. What binds these far-flung places? A haunting architectural DNA woven into every slab and seam. The chambers across all 3 demand ritual interaction, boulders slid into sacred outlines in Tanabe, tiles shifted to echo legendary silhouettes in Alf, paths traced through script in Solation. Unknown haunt Alf and Solation explicitly, their glyphs perhaps echoing the abyssal origins we explored before, while Tanabe's dummy forms evoke the same puzzle logic, as if the builders encoded Pokémon essences into the earth itself. Walls bear faint reliefs of swirling winds, crashing waves, flickering flames, elemental motifs that recur like a composer's refrain. No mortar binds these stones perfectly. They interlock with preternatural precision, defying erosion that should have crumbled them to dust over 15 centuries. Scholars whisper of a migratory cult, stonemasons who crossed seas under starlit compulsions, or perhaps telepathic Pokémon directing human hands towards some cosmic alignment. The synchronicity defies chance. These ruins align not just in time but in purpose, as if shouting a unified warning or prayer into the void. Yet this era of monumental craft unfolded amid unravelling threads. As picks struck stone and chisels danced, humanity's hunger gnawed at the wilds. Farfetch'd, that humble wanderer, with its leek clutched like a talisman, once blanketed the meadows and shores in flocks that darkened the skies during migration. Valued for its tender flesh and the spring onions it carried, ingredients for feasts that fueled the builders' tireless labours, it became the era's tragic quarry. Hunters speared them by the thousands, their calls fading from vibrant choruses to scattered echoes. Archaeological digs unearthed middens piled with far-fetched bones near the ruins' foundations. Mingled with tool shards, and half-carved idols. By the time the last chamber sealed, populations plummeted toward extinction, leaving only rare holdouts in hidden groves. Tanabe's puzzles immortalize one such silhouette, a far-fetched forever poised in defiant grace amid the boulders, a stone elegy for what was lost. This overhunting scarred the land, thinning wetlands where they nested, stirring imbalances that rippled through food chains for generations. The builders raised their enigmas as plenty waned, perhaps intuiting the cost. Their monuments, now silent witnesses to an age where ambition outpaced restraint. Feel the weight of those stones under moonlight, cool and unyielding, humming with puzzles unsolved. The ruins of Alf draw wanderers still, unowned flitting like ghosts at dusk. Tanobe's waves crash eternally against chambers that guard their secrets jealously. Solacion's depths pull at the curious, scripts glowing faintly in torchlight. Together, they form a triad of mystery, their shared DNA a thread pulling back to the abyssal echoes we left behind, hinting at civilizations that rose and whispered across continents. But as these stone voices quieted across the regions, in Johto's ancient heart, two spires thrust skyward, beckoning legendaries to their peaks. In Chapter 3, the twin spires of Ecrutake, where fire, rebirth, and thunderous pursuit await. As those ancient ruins took shape across distant lands, 1,500 years ago, a new ambition stirred in the misty valleys of Johto. In the shadowed heart of what would become Ecrutake City, visionaries raised two colossal spires toward the heavens and depths below, eternal sentinels to balance the forces that shaped their world. The bell tower pierced the clouds first, its slender form forged from gleaming tin and polished stone, a monument to the boundless sky. Builders whispered that it called to the radiant phoenix of the winds, Ho-Oh, whose wings could summon rainbows from storm-torn horizons. Across the way stood the brass tower, broader and unyielding, sheathed in shimmering copper that caught the sea's distant gleam even from inland heights. This was their tribute to the deep, to Lugia, the guardian whose dives through whirlpools tamed the ocean's fury. Together, these twins embodied harmony, sky-kissing sea in architectural poetry. Their foundations sunk deep into Ecrutake's sacred earth, where ley lines pulsed with forgotten energies. You can almost hear the hammers ringing out in unison, day after day, as clans from across Johto converged. Artisans hauled timbers from Violet City's surrounding forests, those same woods that cradled the region's earliest temples. Violet City itself, with its sloping roofs and lantern-lit paths, drew breath from Kyoto's timeless shrines. The Kinkaku-ji Golden Pavilion mirrored in its own gilded halls, the vermilion, torii gates echoing in every arched doorway. Those Kyoto temples, perched amid cherry blossoms and mountain fog, taught Johto's builders restraint and reverence. Structures that bent with earthquakes, roofs that shed winter snow like prayers. Ecrutake's spires adopted that wisdom, their bases wide and rooted like ancient cedars, swaying just enough in gales to whisper survival secrets to the wind. For 500 years, these towers weren't mere stone, they breathed with legend. Ho-Oh descended upon the bell tower's pinnacle, feathers igniting the dawn in cascades of flame and light. Lugia coiled around the brass tower, its silver scales humming with the sea's hidden songs. Humans didn't cower in awe, they walked among them. Children chased the phoenix's tailwinds through Ecrutake's dance halls, where kimono-clad performers spun tales of the guardians under lantern glow. Fishermen offered pearls at the brass tower's feet, their catches swelling in thanks, while skywatchers scaled the bell tower's spirals to glimpse Ho-Oh parting thunderheads. Picture the golden age unfolding in Johto's embrace. Prosperity bloomed like wild azaleas, fields heavy with rice under perpetual clear skies, rivers teeming with corsola and luminous fish. Lugia would surface from hidden grottos, guiding ships through tempests with psychic swells, while Ho-Oh circled villages, purifying poisoned waters with purifying ashes. Elders spoke of festivals where the towers glowed at solstice, Ho-Oh's cry blending with brass chimes, Lugia's roar syncing with crashing waves piped through hollow flutes. Even the Pokémon world felt the peace. Herds of Stantler roamed unafraid, their antlers casting spells of calm over markets bustling with traded relic fragments from Alf's distant echoes. Violet City's architects, inspired by those Kyoto sanctuaries, wove the spire's legacy into their own skyline. Sprout Tower rose nearby, its swaying bell a humble echo of the bell tower's call, built with flexible bamboo lattices that flexed like the wind itself, just as Kyoto's pagodas withstood centuries of tremors. Temples there housed scrolls depicting the twins' construction, ink drawings of cranes lifting golden beams under starry vaults. This wasn't coincidence. Johto's builders saw the spires as living temples, their real-world roots in Kyoto's Shinto purity demanding forms that invited the divine. Every torii arch in Violet led pilgrims toward Ecrutake, a path of reverence where incense smoke curled skyward, mingling scents of pine and salt. Yet harmony like this demands sacrifice, a delicate truce between mortal hands and immortal wings. The towers stood as beacons, but whispers grew of envy among the flames that warmed hearths below. Ho-Oh and Lugia perched not in isolation, but as neighbours to human ambition, watching over hearths where lightning rods mimicked their forms, ships carved with Lugia's eyes slicing waves. Johto thrived, its cities linking like Kyoto's wards. Goldenrod's sprawl a nod to Osaka's pulse, but all roads converged on Ecrutake's glowing duo. In those 500 years, tales multiplied. A drought-stricken harvest saved by Ho-Oh's rainbow deluge. A tidal surge halted mid-roar by Lugia's dive. Humans learned from them, smiths alloying brass with sky-forged meteors, weavers dyeing silks in Lugia's whirlpool blues. Violet City's temple bells rang daily in their honour, tones carrying to the spires like filial calls. Kyoto's influence deepened here, those golden pavilions teaching impermanence, urging Johto to build not for eternity, but for fleeting grace. But even paradise holds its shadows. Lightning sought the proudest heights, and human carelessness brewed in the tower's warm drafts. The golden age teetered on a spark, waiting for the night when fire claimed more than stone. That cataclysm awaits in Chapter 4. The night the sky turned red, a blaze that reshaped legends forever. Drift toward it now, as the tower's glow fades into embers. That golden age in Ecrutake lasted nearly 550 years, a time when humans and legendaries shared the spires in perfect balance, the brass tower gleaming under the sun as Ho-Oh's perch, while across the city, the bell tower stood sentinel for Lugia. Then came the night that broke it all, a night when lightning cracked the heavens without warning, and flames erupted from the brass tower's peak. No one knows exactly what sparked it. Some whisper of a storm too fierce, others of human negligence, with lanterns left burning too close to sacred relics. But as the fire took hold, it spread with unnatural fury, devouring the wooden beams and thatched upper levels that had stood for centuries. The air filled with acrid smoke, thick and choking, drifting over Ecrutake's dance halls and shrines. Screams echoed through the streets as townsfolk rushed toward the blaze, buckets in hand, their faces lit orange by the inferno. The tower, once a symbol of harmony, became a pyre, its brass cladding warping and glowing molten in the heat. High above the chaos, Ho-Oh circled desperately, wings beating against the updraft, cries piercing the roar of the flames. But even a phoenix couldn't quench what had begun. Inside the tower, 3 Pokémon had made their home. Nameless wanderers, drawn to the spire's warmth during those 550 years of peace. They weren't legends then, not in the way we know them now. No epic tales preceded their arrival. They were simply there, companions to the tower's quiet vigil. The first was a creature of lightning, its fur crackling with static, eyes like storm clouds that had roamed Johto's wilds before finding shelter. It chased sparks in the rafters, a playful spark of energy amid the tower's solemnity. Beside it dwelled a beast of fire, sturdy and unyielding, with a mane that flickered like embers even in rest. Legends later called it proud, but in truth, it was fiercely protective, guarding the tower's base from nocturnal intruders with rumbling growls that shook the earth. The third moved like mist over water, graceful and elusive, its crystalline form shimmering in the moonlight, filtering through the tower's slits. It drank from rain puddles collected in the stone bowls, a silent observer of Ecritake's festivals below. These three had become inseparable, their presences intertwining with the tower itself. Lightning dancing with fire, mist cooling the blaze, a triad mirroring the elements that defined Johto's soul. As the flames climbed, they refused to flee. Perhaps loyalty bound them, or instinct drew them deeper into the heart of the structure, seeking to protect the relics and offerings piled within. One by one, they succumbed, fur charred, forms twisted in the unrelenting heat, lost to the night. Word spread that their spirits lingered even then, faint howls and crackles heard amid the crackling timbers, as if pleading for release. Ho-Oh witnessed it all. The rainbow-winged guardian descended through the smoke, its body radiating a light that pierced the darkness. In an act of profound sorrow and power, it channeled the essence of life itself, drawing the departed souls from the ashes. From the lightning, Pokémon rose Raikou, reborn with thunder in its veins, mane a cascade of electric fury, forever roaming Johto as the embodiment of storms unbound. The fire beast emerged as Entei, volcanic might incarnate, its eruptions now legends whispered around campfires, a protector fierce against any threat to the land. And the Misty One transformed into Suicune, pure and northwind swift, its stream-cleansing aura a promise of renewal, gliding through forests and rivers to heal what humanity might scar. These were no longer nameless. They became the legendary beasts, regional guardians sworn to Johto's wilds, their resurrection etching Ho-Oh's mercy into the region's very mythology. But the loss rippled outward. Lugia, sensing the fracture in their bond, abandoned the bell tower that very night, vanishing into the churning seas to the Whirl Islands, where whirlpools guard its solitude to this day. Ho-Oh, too, withdrew from human eyes, perching only rarely on the rebuilt spire, its flights now omens of hope amid despair. Ecritake mourned. The brass tower lay in ruins for generations, a blackened scar amid the city's elegance, its stones salvaged but never fully restored, a reminder that even legends falter before calamity. Yet from those embers sprang new guardians, their paws forever pounding Johto's trails, electric thunder, volcanic roar, and crystalline gale echoing the lost harmony of that fateful night. The sky, they say, burned red for hours, painting the stars with blood and fire, a celestial elegy that no one in Ecritake would ever forget. And as the flames died to embers, whispers began of miracles stirring along Johto's frontier, tales of slowpokes calling rain from drought-stricken skies and pharmacies rising from the coast, wonders that would redefine the land's spirit. Stay with me as we uncover those miracles of the Johto frontier next. From the smouldering ruins of the brass tower, where Ho-Oh's rainbow wings kindled new life into those three lost souls, Johto didn't just mourn, it rebuilt. The land scarred by fire and shadowed by Lugia's distant flight began to whisper of resilience, of everyday miracles that stitched communities back together. In those shadowed years following the blaze, healers and scholars turned to the Earth's own remedies, blending human ingenuity with Pokémon wisdom to mend what flames had torn apart. Picture the rugged cliffs of Tianwood City, battered by relentless ocean gales, where salt-crusted winds carve stories into every stone. 500 years ago, amid this unforgiving frontier, a humble structure rose north of the city, a pharmacy unlike any other. Not a grand temple or towering spire, but a sturdy wooden hall, its eaves heavy with drying herbs that swayed like green banners in the spray. Founded by wandering herbalists who had fled the Icratake inferno, it became Johto's beating heart for medicine. A beacon drawing pilgrims from Violet City's misty spruces to Goldenrod's bustling markets. These weren't mere apothecaries peddling potions from afar. The Cianwood Pharmacy delved into the wild essence of the region itself. They harvested rage candy bars from the feverish berries of berry fields, their sticky sweetness masking fevers that gripped entire villages. Secret potions bubbled in iron cauldrons, distilled from apricorn sap and the iridescent scales of Corsola, washed ashore during storms. Healers there learned from Sudowoodo, those rocky mimics of trees, coaxing moisture from their hidden veins to brew salves for burn-scarred skin, echoes of the brass tower's agony. Generation after generation, the pharmacy endured, its wooden beams darkening with age, shelves groaning under elixirs that revived fainted warriors and soothed the restless spirits of Pokémon haunted by the fire's memory. You can still wander its creaking floors today, inhaling the sharp tang of ground-up stardust, mixed with revive powders that pull life from the brink. It wasn't just medicine, it was Johto's vow to heal. During outbreaks of mysterious ailments that swept from the burned tower's ashes, coughs that mimicked smoke, fevers that burned like embers, the pharmacy dispatched carriers on pidgerbacks, blanketing the region in relief. Farmers in New Barktown credited its energy roots for coaxing stubborn sprouts from poisoned soil. Even the elite of Icratake, rebuilding their dance halls and theatres, sought its full restores to mend the exhaustion of endless vigils for the wandering legendary dogs. 5 centuries on, that legacy pulses through Johto's veins, a quiet miracle proving that from tragedy blooms not just survival, but thriving. Yet Johto's frontier miracles weren't confined to cliffside halls. Far to the east, in the shadowed boughs of Azalea Town's vast forest, another crisis clawed at the land's throat. 400 years ago, the skies clamped shut like a vice. The great drought descended, merciless and unending. Wells ran dry as bones, their wooden buckets scraping dust instead of water. Azalea's sprawling beech trees, ancient guardians that had whispered secrets since the ruins of Alfira, curled their leaves in thirst, dropping brittle husks that crunched underfoot like shattered glass. Rivers shrank to muddy scars, and the air hung thick with the rasp of desperate breaths. Families huddled in dim longhouses, rationing the last drops from Ilex Forest's hidden springs, while Miltank herds staggered, their bells silent tolls of despair. Crops withered to ghosts, berries shriveled on the vine, and whispers spread of curses from the burned tower. Perhaps the flames had angered the heavens themselves. Leaders called upon shamans versed in the old tower rites, but prayers yielded only cracked earth. Pokémon fled the parched glades, Heracross burrowed deep, avoiding the sun's merciless glare. The town teetered on oblivion, its people etching tallies of sun-scorched days on well walls, each mark a plea to the indifferent sky. Then from the well beneath Azalea, a cavern pulsing with the town's quiet pulse, came the slowpokes. These pink, dopey sentinels, dwellers of the damp shadows, had long been overlooked, their slow blinks and vacant yawns dismissed as simpleton quirks. But in the drought's nadir, as the last rains faded to memory, they gathered at the well's mouth. One by one they yawned, those legendary cavernous yawns that twisted the air itself. A single yawn cracked the drought's armour, the slowpoke tails twitched, and thunder grumbled far off. Dozens yawned in unison, their psychic hum vibrating through stone, summoning clouds that bloated like overripe pecha berries. Rain fell, Not a drizzle, but a deluge, sheets of it hammering the forest canopy. Swelling rivers to joyful roars, quenching the earth's fevered thirst. Azalea bloomed overnight, vibrant sprouts piercing the mud, Miltank lowing in revival, children dancing barefoot in puddles that mirrored the sky's sudden mercy. The slowpokes, hailed as saviours, earned their eternal perch on the well's edge, lazy icons of the miracle. From that day, Azalea's folk honoured them with offerings of oran berries and fresh water, weaving their legend into every tale. The great drought etched a truth into Johto's soul. Pokémon weren't just companions, they were the land's hidden saviours, turning catastrophe into covenant. These twin miracles, the pharmacy's enduring balm and Slowpoke's sky-shattering yawn, ignited Johto's era of rebuilding like dry tinder to flame. Communities once fractured by fire and famine forged unbreakable bonds with their Pokémon partners. Strength flowed from shared trials, birthing the region's first true gatherings of champions. In the shadow of healing halls and rain-kissed wells, ambitious trainers rose, their teams tempered by the same resilience that mended Johto. What began as local skirmishes in Cianwood's salty arenas and Azalea's misty clearings evolved into spectacles of raw power, battles where revived Pokémon mirrored the land's own rebirth. The inaugural Pokémon League Championships crystallized from this forge. Organisers, inspired by Ho-Oh's resurrection and Slowpoke's deluge, erected provisional stadiums amid the frontier's wilds. Trainers from across Johto converged, their journeys marked by pharmacy provisions and drought-hardened grit. Victors weren't just battlers, they embodied miracles, teams that healed mid-clash with pharmacy-brewed revives, strategies echoing Slowpoke's patient power. These early leagues, held under skies still wary of fire, united a region in spectacle, their cheers drowning old sorrows. Crowds swelled from hundreds to thousands, badges gleaming like stars reborn from ash, laying the cornerstone for the grand tournaments we know today. As Johto's frontier miracles wove humans and Pokémon into unbreakable tapestry, whispers drifted across seas to distant lands where darker bindings awaited. In Sinnoh's jagged peaks, 500 years past, a fissure cracked open to swallow misdeeds whole, birthing the odd keystone and the sealed sin, a curse that would test even the mightiest bonds. As the rains finally blessed Azalea Town once more, saving its people from the brink, a deeper chill settled over another corner of the world. 500 years ago, in the rugged wilds of what we now know as Sinnoh. Back then they called it Hisui, a land of jagged peaks, whispering winds and spirits that refused to stay buried. You could feel it in the air, that prickling sense of something ancient and vengeful stirring beneath the soil, clawing its way toward the surface. It started with whispers at first, villagers speaking of shadows that moved without light, voices echoing from empty caves, and Pokémon vanishing into thin air, only to reappear hollow-eyed and broken. The culprit was no ordinary ghost. It was a force of pure malice, a swirling maelstrom of 108 restless souls fused into a single, forbidden entity. This was the Spiritomb before it was bound, a being born from centuries of grudges and unavenged wrongs, rampaging across Hisui like a storm of forgotten screams. It toppled sacred stones, possessed the living, and twisted the land itself into mocking shapes, trees bent into grotesque faces, rivers running backward under moonless skies. No blade could touch it, no prayer dispel it. It fed on fear, growing stronger with every soul it claimed. The elders of Hisui knew they faced something beyond mortal strength. They turned to the old rites, the ones etched in bone and passed down through shamans who communed with the unseen. In a ritual shrouded in secrecy, they lured the entity to a jagged fissure high in the mountains, a crack in the earth said to reach into the underworld itself. There, under a sky bruised purple by gathering storms, they shattered an odd keystone, a strange, weathered relic pulsing with otherworldly energy, its surface etched with symbols that burned the eyes to behold. The keystone's fragments pierced the fissure like anchors, and with chants that shook the ground, they forced the spiritom's essence into it. One by one, the 108 spirits were sealed, their wails trapped in the stone's cold heart. But binding such evil demanded a price. The elders sacrificed fragments of their own wills, dooming the entity to eternal torment, flickering just beyond reach. Yet containment was only half the battle. The fissure alone couldn't hold forever. The malice seeped like smoke through cracks in reality. So the people of Hisui built the hallowed tower, rising stark and solitary at send-off spring, its weathered pillars a cage woven from stone and spirit. Imagine the labourers toiling through endless nights, hauling boulders from distant quarries under torchlight that flickered like dying eyes. Each level of the tower was aligned with the stars, inscribed with wards that hummed with latent power, designed not just to imprison, but to purify. Water from the spring fed its base, said to carry the tears of the bound souls, while the odd keystone was embedded at its peak, glowing faintly on stormy evenings. For generations, guardians patrolled its shadow, leaving offerings of rare berries and incense, whispering apologies to the winds. The tower stands to this day, a silent sentinel, where wanderers still feel the pull of those sealed sins, daring to interact with the keystone at their peril. Amid this darkness, Hisui's people didn't cower. They mapped their world with fierce determination. Surveyors braved blizzards and spectral mists, charting every peak from Mount Coronet to the coastal cliffs, their scrolls unfurling like promises of order. This era birthed the region's first primitive Pokédex, a monumental tome bound in hides tougher than steel, documenting at least 238 species. Each entry was a labour of love and peril, sketches of Wurmple weaving silk under lantern glow, notes on Luxray's electric stare that could fell a man, tales of how Bidoof dams held back floods threatening villages. They catalogued behaviours no outsider had seen, Geibel hoarding gems in hidden lairs, Spiritom's distant cousins haunting forgotten shrines. This Pokédex wasn't mere list, it was a survival bible, mapping alliances between humans and Pokémon, turning chaos into coexistence. Expeditions pushed into uncharted valleys, where they first noted the odd keystone's eerie kin scattered across the land, luring the curious with false hopes of treasure. The binding held, but the scars lingered, places where the veil between worlds thinned, and on quiet nights you might hear faint echoes from the tower, a reminder that some sins demand eternal vigilance. As Hisui's maps filled and its Pokédex grew thick with knowledge, the world turned its gaze elsewhere, to regions awakening under golden lights. Up next, Chapter 7. The Gilded Age of Kalos, where palaces rose like dreams carved from sunlight, hiding secrets far more dazzling and dangerous than any sealed spirit. From the shadowed fissures of Sinnoh, where ancient sins were bound eternally within stone, our gaze now drifts westward, across restless seas to the sun-kissed hills of Kalos. Here, 500 years after those dark bindings, a different kind of power took root. Not through curses or keystones, but through the lavish hand of kings who dreamed in gold and marble. 300 years ago, as the monarchy swelled with unchecked ambition, the earth itself trembled under the weight of their grandest folly, Parfum Palace. Picture the scene, if you can feel it, in the humid air of a Colossian summer. Royal architects, their parchment stained with perfume and ink, commanded legions of workers to carve this behemoth from the fertile plains near Lumiose City. It wasn't merely a residence, it was a monument to excess, a sprawling labyrinth of ballrooms where chandeliers dripped like frozen waterfalls and gardens bloomed with flowers imported from distant shores. Their petals heavy with scents that masked the sweat of the labourers below. King Aziz, they say, spared no extravagance. Fountains spouted rare elixirs that Pokémon sipped from golden bowls, while fur-frou herds were groomed into living sculptures, their fur dyed in the royal hues of azure and crimson. This palace became the beating heart of the Gilded Age, a time when Kalos's rulers turned their wealth into architecture that whispered of invincibility. But decadence has its shadows. Whispers among the courtiers spoke of the cost, villages stripped bare to fund the endless expansions, taxes that crushed the peasantry until they fled to the wilds, leaving fields fallow. Parfum Palace stood as a glittering cage, trapping the monarchy in its own splendour. Banquets raged through the night, with Sylvian dancers weaving ribbons of light across vaulted ceilings, and the air thick with the clink of crystal goblets toasting victories yet to come. Yet beneath the opulence lurked the fragility of it all. A single spark of rebellion could have toppled those gilded walls. For 3 centuries, it endured as the pinnacle of royal vanity, drawing travellers from across the regions to gawk at its fountains that danced like captured waterfalls, and halls where tapestries depicted the king's Pokémon legions conquering phantom foes. This royal fervour didn't stop at palace walls. It reshaped Kalos itself, imprinting an aesthetic born of both sword and brush. The monarchy, forged in the fires of ancient wars, channeled that martial spirit into art that glorified their triumphs. Sculptors hewed statues of Mega Lucario from black obsidian, their eyes inlaid with rubies that gleamed like fresh blood under torchlight. Painters captured the chaos of battlefields, where Talonflame soared amid cannon smoke. Their canvases hung in every noble manner from Sillage to Chaleur. War had carved Kalos's borders, but art polished them into elegance. Cobblestone streets lined with ironwork lamps, shaped like elegant Vivillon wings. Bridges arched like the necks of proud Rapidash. The kings decreed that every city bear their mark, spires piercing the sky like lances, plazas vast enough for parades of armoured knights astride their loyal steed Pokémon. Even the land bowed to this vision. In Levair City, nestled deep in Kalos's whispering woods, the monarchy's influence intertwined with a mystery far older than their crowns. At the city's core stands a tree, 1,500 years old. Its trunk as wide as a dozen men embracing, bark etched with patterns that seem to shift in the moonlight. Legends claim it predates the first Kalosian settlements, a sentinel planted by nature's own hand, or perhaps by some forgotten druidic order. What sets it apart isn't just its age, but its quiet command over the city around it. Levair's streets curve and spiral in deference to this ancient giant, as if the urban planners consulted its gnarled branches before laying a single stone. Pathways radiate outward, like roots seeking water, homes built in concentric rings that mirror the tree's annual growth lines. Windows face its canopy, framing leaves that rustle secrets in the breeze, and festivals revolve around its base, where ribbons from lost travellers dangle like eternal prayers. The monarchy, ever eager to claim antiquity, declared it a royal protectorate 300 years ago, weaving it into their gilded narrative. They commissioned murals on nearby walls showing kings kneeling before it, as if their lineage stretched back to its sprouting. But locals know better. The tree dictates Levair's layout not through decree, but through an unspoken pact. Builders who ignored its sway found their foundations cracking overnight, walls twisting like vines in protest. Pokémon flocked to its shade, scatterbug pupate in its hollows, evolving into spupa that pulse with the rhythm of its sap. At dusk, fireflies gather in swarms that outline its silhouette, turning the city into a living lantern. Why does it endure? Scholars pore over rings that reveal droughts survived, wars weathered, storms that felled younger oaks left it unscathed. Some whisper of fairy-type energies coursing through its veins, a natural mega-evolution binding it to the Earth's core. During the Gilded Age, royals held court beneath its boughs, perfuming the air with palace blooms while the tree stood silent witness. It outlasted their decadence, their wars, their art, reminding Kalos that true power whispers from the roots, not the throne. Through these centuries, the Kalosian monarchy wove war's grit with art's grace into every cornerstone. Battlefields birthed ballads, sung by minstrel Pokémon in moonlit cafes. Conquered lands supplied silks for gowns that flowed like rivers in royal processions. Shalur's towering gym, with its prismatic prism echoing the clash of steel on shield. Anistar's sundial, calibrated to track campaigns across the stars. Even the wilds bore their touch, vine-choked ruins where old forts crumbled into romantic overgrowth, reclaimed by nature, yet stamped with heraldic carvings. Parfum Palace gleams on, a relic of that gilded excess, its halls echoing with ghosts of feasts long faded. Lever's tree looms eternal, dictating fates with quiet authority, and the aesthetic they forged? It lingers in Kalos's every curve and flourish, a testament to rulers who painted their legacy across a canvas of conquest and creation. As the echoes of Kalos's golden spires fade into twilight, we turn our sights to the smokestacks rising on the horizon. Chapter 8: Unova's Industrial Awakening, where rivers were tamed by steel and bridges, and a single Gurdur's hammer sparked a revolution that buried old worlds under new ones. What secrets hide in those flood-scarred foundations? Stay with me and find out. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. As the opulent halls of Parfum Palace echoed with the whispers of Kalosian nobility 300 years ago, and the ancient tree of Lever City continued to weave its silent roots through the streets, the winds of change were already stirring far across the sea in Unova. 200 years before the world turned its eyes to its bustling metropolises, this region underwent a profound industrial awakening, where human ingenuity fused with Pokémon strength to reshape the land itself against the fury of nature. Picture the village bridge, not as just another span over rushing waters, but as a testament etched in wood and stone to an unbreakable bond. A devastating flood had ravaged the lowlands, swallowing homes and fields in a torrent of mud and debris that left entire communities adrift. Rivers swelled beyond their banks, carving new paths of destruction through what was once fertile ground. In the midst of this chaos emerged a lone builder, a man whose name history has softened to legend, armed only with his hammer and his steadfast partner, a Gurdur, that towering timber evolution, with muscles like knotted oak and a girdle beam slung across its shoulder like a badge of unyielding resolve. Together, they toiled where others despaired. The girder hefted massive logs felled from the surrounding forests, its raw power turning what would have taken dozens of men into a symphony of single swings. Day after unrelenting day, under skies still bruised from the storm, they drove pillars deep into the unstable riverbed, lashed beams with ropes woven from resilient vines, and layered planks broad enough for carts laden with harvest. The man directed with quiet precision, his voice a steady rhythm amid the crash of waves below, while Gurdur's grunts echoed like thunder, each strike sealing their defiance against the flood's memory. When the span finally arched complete, it wasn't merely a bridge, it was a monument, a living symbol of harmony between human dream and Pokémon might, standing defiant over the waters that had once sought to claim everything. Travelers crossing it even today swear they feel that ancient partnership in the creak of the timbers, a reminder that from ruin, resilience is born. That same spirit of transformation pulsed through Driftvale City, a place once defined by the chill bite of commerce rather than the roar of crowds. For generations, Driftvale had been Unova's frozen heart, its sprawling cold storage a cavernous relic of practicality. Massive warehouses burrowed into the earth, their walls slick with perpetual frost, hummed with the low drone of preservation. Workers in heavy coats shuffled through dim aisles, stacked high with iced crates of berries, meats, and exotic goods shipped from distant shores. Unova's lifeline against spoilage in an age before advanced tech. The air hung thick with the metallic tang of cold iron and the faint, earthy scent of preserved life, a utilitarian fortress where efficiency trumped elegance. But 200 years ago, ambition ignited change. The old storage facilities, their purpose fading with new preservation methods, gave way to something grander, the Pokémon World Tournament stage. Visionaries saw potential in the vast underground expanse, clearing out the icy vaults to carve arenas that could host champions from every corner of the globe. Echoing chambers once filled with frozen silence now reverberated with the clash of battles. Steel on steel, fire against water, the thunderous cheers rising like steam from a forge. Spotlights pierced the gloom where frostlights once flickered, and tiered seats spiraled upward, accommodating thousands who came to witness history. Driftvale evolved from a shadowy hub of storage into a glittering coliseum, its transformation mirroring Unova's own ascent, where the cold grip of survival yielded to the hot pulse of spectacle and unity. Not far from these feats, in the shadow of the Undella Mountains, Lentimas town emerged like a scar healed into beauty, hewn straight from volcanic rock. The mountains themselves were alive with geothermal fury, fumaroles hissing steam laced with sulfur, rivers of cooled lava twisting like black veins through the slopes. Undella Bay shimmered nearby, its turquoise waves lapping at cliffs that plunged hundreds of feet, but up high, the terrain was unforgiving, a labyrinth of jagged obsidian and pumice that mocked any who dared settle. Yet settlers did dare, armed with picks, chisels, and Pokémon partners attuned to the Earth's fire. Concha grunts and Torkoal lent their heat to soften stubborn stone, while Excadrill burrowed tunnels with drills that sang through basalt. Teams of workers, faces smudged with ash, carved homes from the living rock, facades blooming like geodes from sheer faces, interiors warmed by natural vents that bubbled hot springs right into hearths. Streets wound serpentine along ridges, overlooking valleys where ashfall fertilized secret gardens. What began as precarious outcrops swelled into a thriving town, its black stone buildings, glowing amber at dusk under lava flows, contained just beyond the ridgeline. Lentimas became a beacon of adaptation, where the mountain's wrath was tamed into shelter, proving Unova's people could claim even the wildest heights. These triumphs, village bridges' enduring arch, Driftvale's thunderous arenas, Lentimas's fiery embrace marked Unova's leap from scattered settlements into an industrial powerhouse where floods were bridged, frosts thawed, and mountains bowed. But amid this awakening, whispers lingered of other secrets, taking shape on an isolated isle, guarded by shadows, an ancient light. Drift into Chapter 9, The Secret of Liberty Garden, where a fortune's folly concealed a power that could ignite the world, or unravel it forever. As Unova pushed forward from the floods that birthed Village Bridge and the grand repurposing of Driftvale's cold storage into a tournament arena, another quiet revolution unfolded along its eastern shores. Roughly 200 years ago, there, in the misty expanse of Undella Bay, a secluded island caught the eye of one of the region's wealthiest families, the kind whose fortunes were built on shipping empires and shadowed dealings that spanned continents. This family, whispered about in the parlours of Nimbasa's elite, didn't just acquire Liberty Garden for its pristine beaches or the lighthouse that pierced the fog like a sentinel's gaze. No, they bought it outright, lock, stock, and hidden chambers, with a singular purpose burning in their secretive hearts: to conceal Victini, the victory Pokémon itself. Legends had long swirled around this elusive creature, a being said to embody triumph itself, its tiny flames flickering with an energy that could ignite the unlikeliest of victories. But in an era of growing industrialization, where trainers and merchants roamed freely, the family feared Victini would be hunted, captured or worse, exploited for its boundless power. So they turned the island into a fortress of discretion, a private Eden where the Pokémon could dwell unseen. Picture the transaction itself, shrouded in non-disclosure and midnight sales. The sellers, descendants of early settlers who'd mapped the bay's treacherous currents, handed over deeds stained with salt and ink for a sum that could have bought half of Driftvale. The family arrived not with fanfare, but under cover of storm clouds, their yacht slicing through waves that crashed like warnings against jagged rocks. They reinforced the lighthouse, not for ships adrift, but to mask deeper excavations below. And that's where the true genius, or madness, of Liberty Garden revealed itself. Its backrooms, a labyrinth of architectural isolation, carved into the island's rocky underbelly. These weren't mere basements or storage vaults. 200 years prior, the island had already harboured secrets from colonial explorers who'd stumbled upon it centuries earlier, mistaking its geothermal vents for cursed ground. The family expanded on that legacy, commissioning masons who specialised in hidden mechanisms. Think false walls triggered by pressure plates, corridors that spiralled into dead ends, rigged with illusionary mirrors, and chambers sealed by gears mimicking the intricate puzzles of ancient relic castle. The backrooms formed a self-contained world, ventilated by hidden shafts that whispered sea air without betraying light. Echoes of dripping water mingled with the distant roar of waves, creating an acoustic prison that disoriented intruders. Food stores, sourced from the mainland under the guise of family picnics, sustained Victini in a central sanctum adorned with V-shaped motifs carved into obsidian, glowing faintly under bioluminescent fungi cultivated just for it. Why such extremes? The family knew Victini's aura could draw seekers like moths to flame. Reports from Giotto's towers spoke of legendaries fleeing human greed, and Unova's own airships were beginning to crisscross the skies. They wove wards into the stone, Pokémon-assisted runes, from friendly Espeon and Umbreon perhaps, ensuring the victory Pokémon remained a flickering secret. Generations passed with only a handful of caretakers knowing the paths, twisting stairs behind the lighthouse keeper's pantry, a submerged tunnel accessible only at low tide, rooms where the air hummed with latent energy, making compasses spin wildly. Even today, those backrooms stand as a testament to isolation perfected, their 200-year-old secrets layered like sedimentary rock, colonial maps etched into walls, forgotten smuggling caches from Prohibition eras, and the faint, eternal warmth of Victini's presence. But Liberty Garden's shadow stretched to the mainland, influencing the glittering enclave of Undella Town that hugged the bay's curve. There the Riches family, yes, that Riches family, whose name evoked opulence and old money, held sway in a sprawling mansion perched on cliffs overlooking the island. Their estate was a relic of Unova's pre-industrial pomp, all gabled roofs, marble columns imported from Carlos, and gardens manicured by hand-picked Pokémon like Roserade and Levani. Yet, as the 200-year mark approached, tastes shifted. The ultra-rich buyers of Liberty Garden, intertwined through marriage and monopoly, deemed the Riches house an eyesore, a crumbling monument to excess amid rising tides of modernity. Demolition came swiftly, almost ritually. Crews of Machamp and Conkeldurr, the same sturdy partners who'd bridged village floods, tore it down in weeks, dust clouds billowing like funeral pyres into the bay winds. What rose from the rubble birthed modern Undella Town's luxury, a constellation of villas, each a masterpiece of glass and steel imported from the burgeoning factories of Driftvale. These weren't just homes, they were statements, private docks for yachts, that ferried guests to Liberty Gardens' exclusive retreats, infinity pools mirroring the sea, and subterranean gyms echoing the island's hidden depths. Pokémon like Milotic glided in imported lagoons, while Alamomola healers attended the elite in spas carved from the cliffs. Undella transformed overnight into Unova's Riviera, a haven where the wealthy whispered of the bay's guardian spirit without ever naming Victini, their isolation now a shared luxury. The irony lingers in the salt air. A Pokémon hidden to preserve victory became the unseen architect of opulence. Fishermen still speak of golden lights dancing offshore on moonless nights, and divers report currents that pull toward unseen caves. Those backrooms, with their 2-century vigil, guard not just a legend, but the fragile line between protection and possession. And as Unova's eastern shores gleamed anew across the ocean, ancient powers stirred in ways that would reshape entire empires. Next time, in Chapter 10, The Rise of the Paldean Empire, we'll uncover how one ruler's thirst for the unknown ignited an age of exploration that buried treasures deeper than any island vault. What secrets from the great crater drove a civilization to glory and ruin? 200 years ago, as Unova's wealthiest families sealed away ancient powers on fog-shrouded islands like Liberty Garden, another realm across vast oceans was awakening to its own imperial destiny. In Paldea, where sun-baked plains stretch endlessly under azure skies, the Paldean Empire took root, born from the unyielding ambition of a single visionary ruler. This emperor, whose name echoes faintly in weathered stone inscriptions, united fractious clans under a banner of conquest and curiosity, forging a civilization that would etch its mark into the very earth. From its earliest days, the empire fixated on a colossal enigma at the heart of the region, the great crater of Paldea. Picture it, a yawning abyss miles wide, its jagged rim rising like the broken crown of some primordial god. Steam hissed from fissures deep within, and strange lights flickered in the perpetual twilight below, drawing the emperor's gaze like a moth to forbidden flame. Whispers among the people spoke of treasures buried there, of Pokémon, unlike any seen on the surface, guardians of secrets that could elevate Paldea above all nations. Expeditions were launched almost immediately, bands of explorers roped together with vines and chains, descending into the crater's maw, with torches sputtering against toxic mists. These ventures weren't mere scouting parties, they became the Empire's lifeblood, funded by taxes from burgeoning cities that sprouted along trade routes. Villages swelled into towns, their adobe walls gleaming white under the relentless sun. Markets alive with the clamour of merchants hawking glittering ores hauled from crater depths. But the obsession came at a cost. Countless souls vanished into the void, their final cries swallowed by echoing winds, fueling tales of vengeful spirits and colossal shadows stirring below. Yet the Emperor pressed on, declaring the crater the key to Paldea's supremacy, a portal to otherworldly power. To safeguard these perilous journeys and scan the horizons for rivals, the Paldeans erected watchtowers across the region, sentinels of stone that pierce the sky even today. Tall and austere, these structures crown hilltops and cliffs, their spiraling staircases worn smooth by generations of centuries. From their pinnacles, guards with keen eyes tracked caravan paths, snaking through olive groves and canyons, while massive bronze mirrors caught the sun's glare to signal distant outposts. Some towers bore carvings of celestial maps, stars aligned in patterns hinting at prophecies tied to the crater's glow. You can still wander Paldea's wilds and stumble upon them, ivy-cloaked relics whispering of vigilance long faded, their foundations cracked but unyielding. This imperial fervour didn't unfold in isolation. Parallel to Paldea's ascent rose the Draconid civilization in the distant skies of Hoenn, a people who revered dragons as divine harbingers. While Paldean masons laid the first watchtower stones, Draconids etched meteorite lore into granite meteors, their shamans gazing upward at the same starlit canopy. Both cultures shared an unspoken bond through these celestial observations, eclipses that bathed the great crater in eerie silver, comet trails mirroring the crater's luminous veins. Draconid legends speak of Rayquaza descending during such events, a serpentine arbiter stabilizing the world's axis, while Chaldean chroniclers noted similar omens, interpreting them as mandates to plumb the crater's depths. Trade winds carried rumors between them, fostering uneasy alliances where Draconid sky watchers exchanged star charts for Chaldean crater artifacts, their observatories syncing rhythms with those lonely towers. Imagine the nights when priests from both realms aligned their rituals, bonfires roaring on Chaldean cliffs as Draconid chants echoed from mountaintops afar. The Empire's heart quickened with these synchronicities, fueling bolder descents into the abyss. Watchtowers multiplied, dotting coasts and passes like watchful eyes, each one a node in a vast network, vigilant against the unknown. Resources poured in, quarried marble veined with quartz, timbers hewn from ancient cork oaks, crafting bastions that doubled as astronomical dens, their domed roofs open to the vault above. Sentries huddled there against chill winds, charting constellations that seemed to pulse in time with subterranean rumbles from the crater. Yet beneath this shared stellar gaze, tensions simmered. Chaldea's emperor grew possessive, fortifying towers with iron gates and Pokémon patrols, fierce Tauros herds thundering circuits below, Gliscor scouts wheeling overhead. The Draconids, ever aloof in their lofty perches, viewed the crater fixation as hubris, their own dragon worship demanding balance over domination. Expeditions returned sporadically with bizarre relics, shards that shimmered with inner light, herbs pulsing with unnatural vitality, whispers of Pokémon twisted by unseen forces. These fueled the Empire's golden age, academies blooming in shadowed plazas where scholars debated the crater's origins. Was it a fallen star's scar, a battle wound from legendary titans, or a gateway to realms beyond? The watchtowers stood as eternal witnesses to this era's triumphs and folly. Their silhouettes, stark against crimson sunsets, guided explorers home through dust storms, while from their heights, the great crater loomed like a dark pupil staring back. Ruins of imperial villas now crumble nearby, mosaics depicting emperors enthroned amid crater visions. But the towers endure, moss-draped fingers pointing skyward. They remind us how Chaldea's rise intertwined with cosmic rhythms, a dance of ambition mirroring the Draconids' ancient vigils. As these foundations solidified, the Emperor's gaze turned ever deeper into the unknown, igniting what would become the Great Age of Exploration. In our next chapter, Chapter 11, The Great Age of Exploration, we'll descend into the heart of those fateful expeditions, uncovering the perils and revelations that tested the Empire's soul like never before. Those watchtowers scattered across Chaldea's rugged highlands like silent sentinels stood as the first harbingers of an ambition that would consume an entire empire. The Chaldean emperor, enthroned in his opulent citadel overlooking the vast expanse of the great crater, gazed into its yawning abyss each dawn. What lay at the heart of that colossal scar on the earth? Treasures beyond imagining, he proclaimed to his court, powers that could elevate Chaldea to dominion over all regions. Thus began the Great Age of Exploration, a relentless crusade that would span 1,000 years. From the Empire's glittering zenith, expeditions launched without cease. Caravans of the finest Tauros-drawn wagons groaned under crates of provisions, dried berries from the southern orchards, shimmering citrus fruits hoarded from every harvest, and gleaming tools forged in the imperial smithies. Scholars pored over ancient maps under torchlight, their quills scratching feverishly as they plotted descents into the crater's fog-choked depths. elite squads of explorers, clad in armor etched with imperial crests, ventured forth with teams of hardy Pokémon. Stoutland for scouting, Corviknight for aerial reconnaissance, and Claw for hauling massive winches to lower cages into the void. The Emperor spared no expense. Taxes crushed the peasantry. Fields lay fallow as farmers were conscripted to supply the endless convoys snaking toward the crater's rim. Villages emptied, their hearths cold, while granaries in the capital overflowed only for the expeditions. Gold flowed like water, mined from Paldea's deepest veins, melted into coins that bought rare Herba Mystica rumours and alchemical elixirs promising safe passage through the paradox-ridden chasms below. Palaces rose along the crater's edge, outposts where returning survivors whispered of glowing crystals and shadowy forms that defied nature itself. Yet for every tale of wonder, 10 parties vanished, their echoes swallowed by the mist. Year after year, decade upon decade, the drain persisted. The Emperor's heirs inherited the obsession, each vowing to pierce the crater's final veil. Watchtowers multiplied into fortresses, their stone foundations carved from quarries stripped bare. Fleets of ships docked at coastal ports, unloading materials for rope bridges and pulley systems that dangled precariously over sheer drops. The air hummed with the cries of wingulls circling supply blimps, bloated with canvas sacks of coal for the steam-powered drills probing the crater walls. Paldea's once thriving trade routes faltered. Merchants from distant Unova turned away, whispering of an empire bleeding itself dry. The costs mounted into the astronomical. By the 500th year, famine stalked the heartlands. Rivers ran low from diverted irrigation, feeding expedition camps. Rebellions flickered in the shadowed alleys of provincial towns, quelled only by imperial legions more accustomed to crater patrols than crowd control. The Emperor's court, once a symphony of silk-robed advisors, grew gaunt, their feasts reduced to meagre rations as every berry was tallied for the next descent. Still, the orders came. More ropes, more lanterns, more lives hurled into Area Zero's maw. 1,000 years in, the Empire teetered. The final expeditions returned hollow-eyed, bearing fragments of crystalline Terra shards that pulsed with unnatural light, but no ultimate prize. The crater had claimed its tithe. Treasuries bankrupt, armies decimated, farmlands barren. Riots engulfed the capital as the last Emperor's banners tore in the gale sweeping from the abyss. Palaces crumbled, their marble facades fracturing under neglect. The imperial line flickered out in a coup drowned in the blood of exhausted guards. In the aftermath, Paldea's empire dissolved into dust and legend, yet from its ruins sprang renewal. The grand watchtowers, weathered but unbowed, became the anchors for new settlements, Mesagoza City rising around a cluster of them, its academy halls echoing with the footsteps of scholars who once mapped the crater's perils. Crater rim fortresses morphed into the sturdy walls of Levincia. Their battlements now mark its bustling with vendors hawking expedition relics. Abandoned outposts seeded Cortondo's groves, where olive trees now twist through toppled columns, and the Emperor's coastal docks birthed Porto Marinada's vibrant harbours. Even the crater's research citadels lent their bones to Alfornada's labyrinthine streets, a testament to how collapse forges foundations. These scattered stones whisper of hubris and hunger for the unknown. Their moss-covered inscriptions faded but defiant. Paldea's modern cities stand taller on the Empire's grave, vibrant mosaics of what was lost and what endures just beyond the rim. But the crater's deepest secrets slumbered untouched, beckoning the boldest souls yet to come. We'll descend into those shadows ourselves in Chapter 12, Descent into the Great Crater. Yet despite the Paldean Empire's dramatic collapse under the weight of those endless expeditions, the Great Crater of Paldea, known to scholars as Area Zero, continued to whisper its secrets to the bold. For centuries, watchtowers had dotted the rim like silent sentinels, their stone faces weathered by relentless winds, gazing down into the abyss where no human had truly ventured. Empires rose and fell, but the crater endured, a yawning scar in the earth, veiled in perpetual mist and echoing with distant cries from unseen depths. 200 years ago, that silence shattered. Heath, a daring explorer fueled by the Emperor's unfinished legacy, assembled the first true expedition into Area Zero. Not the half-hearted probes of old, but a resolute plunge to the bottom. Picture the scene: his team rappelling down sheer cliffs slick with condensation, ropes creaking under the strain, the air growing thicker, heavier, laced with an otherworldly tang that clung to their throats. Flashlights pierced the gloom, revealing jagged obsidian walls veined with glowing minerals, and far below, a faint shimmer, like starlight trapped in stone. Heath's journals, preserved in Paldea's Zero lab today, capture the raw thrill. Heartbeats syncing with the drip of water from stalactites, the first glimpse of bioluminescent fungi carpeting ledges no eye had beheld. As they descended further, the world transformed. The crater's sides curved inward, forming a colossal funnel that swallowed light itself. Days blurred into nights under an artificial sky of fractured cavern ceilings. Pokémon shadowed them, wild Tinkertink scavenging in the rubble, Cluff scuttling across precarious outcrops, but none dared the final plunge. Heath pushed on, his boots crunching over crystalline shards that hummed faintly underfoot. And then, after weeks of grueling trial, they touched bottom. The first human footsteps echoed across the crater floor, a vast, alien basin where time felt suspended. Here at last lay the heart of Area Zero, a labyrinth of towering spires and fractured plateaus, bathed in an ethereal glow from unseen sources. Amid this surreal expanse, Heath's team stumbled upon their greatest prize, Herba Mystica. These weren't mere herbs, but radiant plants pulsing with arcane energy, their leaves shimmering like liquid crystal, roots delving into fissures that wept iridescent sap. Scattered in hidden groves, they seemed to defy the crater's harsh conditions, thriving where nothing else could. Heath's sketches depict them in vivid detail, scarlet petals unfurling like flames, azure fronds veined with silver. Eager to catalogue their properties, the explorers harvested samples, marvelling at how the air around them crackled with static, how nearby Pokémon grew agitated, drawn inexorably closer. But the Herba Mystica held powers beyond comprehension. In a fateful mishap, the expedition's Pokémon, loyal companions exhausted from the descent, devoured the precious specimens before they could be secured. What followed was chaos reborn as legend. A massive kloof, bloated with the herb's essence, began to swell, its shell cracking and reforming into armoured behemoth proportions. Scales hardened to diamond-like resilience, claws extended into wrecking tools capable of shattering boulders. This was no ordinary Pokémon. It was the birth of the first Titan Pokémon, a colossal guardian infused with terrestrial energy. Heath watched in awe and terror as it rampaged briefly, reshaping the cavern floor before calming, its form stabilized by the crater's mysteries. Word spread like wildfire. The herbs didn't just nourish, they amplified, twisting Pokémon into titans of raw power. This accidental creation unveiled another enigma, the terrestrial phenomenon. Heath's logs brim with the first recorded observations. Pokémon in Area Zero manifesting crystalline architectures, their bodies refracting light into prismatic halos. A Tinkerton shimmered with topaz facets, its hammer gleaming like faceted quartz. Flocks of Fido hardened into sugary geodes mid-flight, only to revert with a sparkle. The crater floor itself seemed alive with it, stalagmites of pure Tira crystal jutting skyward, pulsing in sync with the Titan's heartbeats. Heath theorized these structures formed natural amplifiers drawing energy from the Earth's core, explaining the phenomenon's cradle here at the world's nadir. His expeditions mapped glowing veins snaking through the rock, hinting at a vast underground network fueling Paldea's terrestrial debuts. These revelations reshaped Paldean understanding forever. Heath emerged not just a hero, but a harbinger, his findings sparking the modern Zero Lab perched high above. Yet questions lingered in the glow of those crystals. What deeper forces birthed the Herba Mystica? Did the Titans guard something more profound? The crater's floor, once forbidden, now beckoned scientists and trainers alike, its crystalline spires standing as eternal testaments to that pivotal descent. As Heath's era fades into legend, our journey shifts across oceans to a chain of tropical islands where human ambition met wild paradise in unexpected ways. Stay with me for Chapter 13, the Alolan Migration, where foreign Pokémon reshape paradise and evolutionary surprises bloom under the sun. As the echoes of Heath's groundbreaking descent into Area Zero faded, and the first Titan Pokémon stirred in Paldea's shadowed depths, the Pokémon world, above ground, was hurtling toward a new era of connection, one sparked by a simple yet revolutionary invention: the modern Pokeball. Picture those unassuming red and white spheres perfected just over 200 years ago, shrinking entire companions into pocket-sized portability. No longer chained to their trainers by bulky aprons or heavy balls of the past, Pokémon could traverse oceans in an instant. Trainers from every corner of the globe, their wanderlust ignited, set their sights on Alola, a sun-drenched archipelago of 4 idyllic islands, where turquoise waves lapped at volcanic shores, and the air hummed with the scent of plumeria blooms. Alola had always whispered invitations to adventurers, its kahunas welcoming outsiders with open arms, and shared feasts under starlit skies. But with Pokeballs in hand, what was once a trickle of visitors swelled into a roaring tourism boom. Hotels sprouted like palm fronds after rain along Melemele Island's sandy stretches, their open-air lanais overlooking beaches where Pikipek drummed rhythms on coconut husks. On Akala Island, vast resorts hugged the cliffs near Paniola town, drawing crowds to watch Tauros herds thunder across sun-baked pastures. Ula Ula's rugged trails filled with hikers chasing the thrill of Stoutland packs bounding through mist-shrouded highlands, while Pony Island's wild gorges became playgrounds for explorers scaling jagged plateaus hand in hand with their rock-rough companions. The island's natural beauty, paired with legendary trials at each kahuna's domain, turned Alola into the ultimate vacation haven. Trainers didn't just visit, they lingered, trading stories at beachside grills, challenging locals to battles that echoed into the night, their Pokeballs clicking open to reveal species never before seen swaying in the trade winds. And oh, those foreign Pokemon, they didn't just tag along as obedient sidekicks. Freed from their balls during lazy afternoons or impromptu releases, they wandered, explored, and ultimately claimed the islands as their own. A Kanto Rattata, nimble and scrappy, hitched a ride in a tourist's bag and scampered into Melemele's grassy knolls, where it found ample berries and few predators. Over generations, it evolved alongside Alola's native Yungoos, their lineages mingling in unexpected ways, birthing variants tougher, sleeker, adapted to the island's relentless sun and sudden showers. On Akala's lush farms, Hoenn's mud bray plodded off leashes, their sturdy hooves churning soil into fertile paddies. Soon herds of these mainland mules dominated the landscape, crossbreeding with local mudstale to produce stockier, heat-hardy strains that powered the island's agriculture. Ula Ula's desolate trails welcomed Sinnoh's bold Grimer from far-off factories, their toxic sludge seeping into geothermal vents, evolving into the iridescent Alolan muck that glowed under moonlight, filtering pollutants from volcanic pools in a bizarre ecological twist. Pony's canyons echoed with the cries of imported Garcomp, their dragon might reshaping cliffsides as they carved new dens, influencing local Jangmoo to grow fiercer, their scales shimmering with imported minerals. These weren't invasions, they were migrations, a vibrant remix of ecosystems. Native Salandit populations exploded on Akala, thriving in the warmer microclimates, stirred by visiting fire types. Cutie-flea swarms from trainers' gardens pollinated exotic flowers, sparking blooms that lured even more species. The island's biodiversity surged, reefs teeming with Corsola variants shedding brighter branches, forests alive with the chatter of mingled Pidgey and Pedo flocks. Yet not without tension. Territorial spats flared between imported Persian and native Alolan Meowth, their shadows dancing in torchlit nights, forging a delicate balance through sheer adaptability. This influx reshaped Alola's very foundations, blending the ancient with the cutting edge. Traditional hail, those open-sided thatched homes of woven pandanus leaves and lava stone pillars, passed down through Kahuna lineages, stood shoulder to shoulder with gleaming Ether Foundation outposts. Founded amid the tourism surge, Ether's campuses rose like crystalline sentinels on Melemele, their sterile white spires humming with holographic displays and climate-controlled habitats. Imagine wandering Hiahia City's vibrant markets, where a Kahuna's driftwood shrine abuts a foundation lab, its glass walls revealing Pokémon in recovery pods, bathed in soft blue light. On Akala, Royal Avenue's boutique-lined streets weave past ether conservation drones, patrolling the skies, their whir blending with the strum of ukuleles from nearby longhouses. Ula Ula's Mali Garden merges manicured topiary mazes, echoing feudal Japanese estates, with Ether's seismic sensors embedded in ancient menhirs, monitoring quakes that once rattled the island's spirits. Pony seafaring villages, with their coral-encrusted docks and rope bridges swaying over abyssal drops, now host Ether's submersible bays, launching vessels to safeguard ultra-wormholes that tourism inadvertently widened. This fusion isn't mere convenience, it's harmony. Ether tech preserves the old ways, solar arrays powering eternal torches at trial sites, AI guardians mimicking the protective spirits of Tapus, ensuring foreign migrants don't overwhelm sacred groves. Kahunas consult Foundation scientists during full moons, their chants syncing with data streams to predict migration waves, turning potential chaos into celebrated evolution. As Alola's islands pulse with this new lifeblood, foreign Pokémon weaving into the fabric of paradise, we stand on the cusp of another monumental shift, one where sprawling metropolises rise from the ashes of ancient rivalries, mapping out the blueprint for urban legends in Kanto. What secrets lie in Kanto's urban blueprint? Drift off now, and let the lights of Saffron flicker into your dreams. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. As modern Pokeballs turned Alola into a melting pot of wandering Pokémon and eager tourists, the pulse of progress echoed far across the ocean to Kanto, where humble fishing villages and quiet ports began swelling into the beating hearts of a new era. Saffron City stands as the crown jewel of this transformation, its skyline piercing the heavens like a living blueprint of Tokyo itself. What started as scattered neighborhoods hugging the edges of a vast plain has ballooned into a labyrinth of gleaming towers and endless boulevards, where the hum of electric trains rattles beneath streets teeming with trainers rushing to their next gym battle. Picture the early days, when Saffron was little more than a cluster of wooden shops and open markets, trainers bartering for berries under the shade of cherry blossoms that still bloomed defiant amid the concrete. But ambition fueled its rise. Copycat power plants flickered to life on the outskirts, drawing engineers and inventors who dreamed of harnessing electricity on a scale never seen. Sylph Company emerged from those sparks, its sprawling headquarters becoming the nerve centre, a monolithic structure of glass and steel that mirrors Tokyo's fusion of tradition and hypermodernity. Underground fighting rings buzzed in hidden basements, while the golden dome of the Saffron Gym gleamed above it all, a beacon for psychic prodigies channeling their gifts amid the chaos. This evolution wasn't accidental. Saffron's grid of wide avenues and radial hubs echoes Tokyo's own urban skeleton, designed for efficiency in a world where Pokémon battles demand space and spectacle. Skyscrapers now cast long shadows over the old magnet train station, where passengers once stepped off into a modest hub, only to find themselves swallowed by expansion. The fighting dojo stands resolute nearby, its tatami mats worn by generations of martial artists, a quiet counterpoint to the corporate giants rising around it. Yet beneath the glamour lurks the tension of growth. Overcrowded Pokémon centres strain under the weight of challenges, and whispers of Team Rocket's early schemes slither through alleyways, hinting at the shadows that prosperity casts. Venturing southward along the coast, Vermilion City tells a different tale, one etched in salt spray and the creak of wooden docks, its roots plunging deep into the maritime legacy of Yokohama, Japan's grandest port. Long before gleaming harbours welcomed international ships, Vermilion was a rugged outpost where fishermen hauled in nets, heavy with wingle and magikarp, their boats bobbing against piers built from weathered oak. The city's harbour evolved alongside trade winds, swelling as merchants from distant regions arrived with exotic spices, rare TMs, and Pokémon unseen in Kanto's wilds. Much like Yokohama's transformation from Edo-era wharf to a gateway for the world, the Vermilion Gym, perched like a lighthouse on the waterfront, became the symbol of this seafaring spirit. Its leader, Bill, pioneering PC storage systems that revolutionized how trainers transported their companions across oceans. Diglett's cave yawns nearby, a reminder of the Earth's restless churn beneath the waves, while the SS Anne docked periodically, its luxury decks ferrying elite trainers and their entourages. Shipwrecks litter the bay's floor, relics of storms that tested the port's mettle, and the lighthouse atop the cliffs still sweeps its beam nightly, guiding vessels through fog-shrouded nights. Vermilion streets wind like ropes coiled for departure, lined with salt-crusted warehouses where sailors swap tales of crabby migrations and the ghosts of sunken galleons. This port's heartbeat syncs with Yokohama's own history of resilience. Earthquakes and tsunamis have battered both. Yet Vermilion rebuilds stronger, its fan club gatherings in dockside taverns buzzing with news of rare catches. The Diglett Tunnel funnels traffic inland, but the true lifeblood flows from the sea, where Pelipper flocks herald incoming fleets laden with goods that fuel Kanto's economy. Trainers here learn early that the ocean gives and takes without mercy, forging bonds with water types amid the perpetual rhythm of tides. Yet not all of Kanto's urban tapestry shimmers with progress. Tucked in the shadowed northeast lies Lavender Town, a place where the veil between worlds thins, its Pokémon tower rising sombre and solemn, like a sentinel over graves both fresh and ancient. This spire of sorrow draws from the spiritual hush of Ibaraki Prefecture's Oshiku Dairyuji, home to the colossal Oshiku Daibutsu, a Buddha statue gazing eternally over misty valleys. Lavender's tower began as a humble pagoda, erected to honour fallen Pokémon, whose spirits lingered after battles, too fierce or illnesses too cruel, its bells tolling softly to soothe restless souls. Over centuries, it grew layer by layer, each floor a mausoleum etched with names of beloved companions. Pidgey that fell to illness, Rattata lost in the tall grass, Ghastly who wandered too far into the night. The air inside hangs heavy with incense, and the faint glow of ghastly flames, flickering like memories refusing to fade. Visitors come not for battles, but for quiet vigil, leaving flowers and Pokeballs filled with offerings at alcoves where wild Pokémon perch, guardians of the departed. The tower's pinnacle once held a sacred flame, but tragedy struck when a storm toppled it, awakening the wrath of restless ghosts that haunted the heights until brave trainers quelled them. This somber origin mirrors real-world reverence for the dead, where Oshiku's Buddha embodies eternal watchfulness amid natural beauty scarred by loss. Lavender Town clings to hillsides dotted with headstones, its radio tower piercing the sky nearby, broadcasting signals that sometimes catch ethereal static from beyond. The name Rater resides here, inking new monikers on Pokeballs as if renaming could heal old wounds. Fog rolls in nightly, carrying whispers that draw the sensitive, psychics and mediums who sense the tower's pulse, a reminder that even in Kanto's bustling blueprint, death weaves its quiet thread. These cities, Saffron's electric sprawl, Vermilion's salty embrace, Lavender's haunted hush, form Kanto's urban soul, a mosaic of ambition, adventure, and Idao that pulses with the world's hidden histories. As we've traced from ancient ruins to modern migrations, Kanto reveals how human hands and Pokémon paws shaped skylines from the ground up. And while these blueprints solidify Kanto's foundation, the fires brewing in Hoenn threaten to reshape everything. Join me next for Chapter 15, Hoenn's volcanic heart, where molten secrets simmer just beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. As Kanto's ports and metropolises pulse with the rhythm of eastern Japan's mainland, Hoenn pulls us southward to the rugged embrace of Kyushu, Japan's volcanic powerhouse, reimagined through a clever 90-degree counterclockwise twist. Game Freak's designers rotated the entire island 90 degrees to fit the Game Boy Advance's portrait screen, transforming Kyushu's jagged coastlines into Hoenn's serpentine rivers and steaming highlands, where every peak and crater whispers of real-world fury. Picture the Chiron Peace Museum for Pilots area in Kyushu, its misty valleys now echoing in Hoenn's jagged pass, or the Aso Caldera's vast mouth-breathing fire into Mit Chimney's perpetual glow. This rotation didn't just map geography, it infused Hoenn with Kyushu's primal volatility, a land where the earth groans and spits molten defiance, shaping towns that cling to the edge of eruption like defiant sentinels. Nestled in this inferno's shadow rises Laveridge Town, a humble spa village carved from the scorched flanks of McChimney itself. Hot springs bubble eternally here, fed by the mountain's restless veins, where trainers and locals alike soak in steaming pools laced with mineral-rich waters that mend weary muscles and soothe battle-worn Pokémon. The air hangs thick with sulphurous steam, curling like ghostly numal hides, while the ground trembles faintly underfoot. A constant reminder that Chimney's cable car sways above rivers of lava that could surge at any moment. Laveridge wasn't born from flat plains or gentle harbours. Its builders chose this precarious cradle deliberately, harnessing the volcano's heat for geothermal baths that draw pilgrims from across Hoenn. Elders speak of the town's founding amid ash clouds thick as night, when early settlers tamed the scalding springs with numal-drawn ploughs and Camerupt-forged channels, turning peril into paradise. Walk its wooden boardwalks today, past the egg daycare where Pokémon hatch amid the warmth, and you'll feel the pulse of Kyushu's Aso region, home to Japan's largest active caldera, mirrored in every therapeutic vapour. Yet Laveridge thrives not despite McChimney, but because of it. The mountain's eruptions blanket the slopes in fertile ash, coaxing vibrant berries from obsidian soil and fueling an ecosystem where torkoal belch embers like living furnaces and slugma slither through cracks glowing orange. Team Magma's meddling once threatened to awaken Chimney fully, pumping seawater into its heart to cool the magma and reshaped the land. But the volcano's roar held firm, a testament to Hoenn's unyielding geology. In Laveridge, life dances on the knife's edge, where the scent of brimstone mingles with herbal poultices, and every dawn paints the sky in hues of smouldering crimson. High above this geothermal haven looms the Hoenn Pokémon League, perched atop Evergrande City's sky-piercing summit, like a crimson crown defying the heavens. Its architecture evokes Shuri Castle, the ancient seat of Okinawa's Ryukyu kings, now part of Kyushu's cultural tapestry, with sweeping red-tiled roofs curving like dragon spines, whitewashed walls gleaming under torchlight, and ornate gates guarded by stone sentinels. This isn't mere ornament. The League's royal silhouette channels the castle's legacy of unification, where kings once brokered peace amid typhoons and tribute fleets. Step through those imposing vermilion doors, past courtyards where champions once trained under cherry blossoms imported from distant shores, and you enter chambers echoing with the weight of victory. Shuri's influence shines in the throne-like Elite Four arenas, elevated on platforms symbolizing authority over sea and storm, much like Ryukyu rulers who navigated tribute to China and Japan. Hoenn's League building stands as a beacon for aspirants scaling the Victory Road's labyrinth. Its pagoda peaks silhouetted against volcanic haze, blending Kyushu's fiery core with Okinawa's regal poise. In this fusion, Hoenn's heart beats volcanic and sovereign, where rotated coastlines cradle towns forged in fire and leagues inspired by fallen kingdoms. The steam from Laveridge rises eternally. The League's banners snap in summit winds, pulling you deeper into regions where geography and myth entwine. But as Hoenn's flames flicker toward embers, our path turns northward to snow-capped peaks and ancient whispers, where Chapter 16, Sinnoh's Cultural Foundations, unearths the Ainu-rooted secrets of a land built on myth and ice. What hidden spirits guard Jubilife's streets, waiting for you to discover? As the ash from Hoenn's Mont chimney settles on the horizon, our path veers sharply northward, crossing vast seas to the rugged archipelago of Sinnoh, where the pulse of modern cities beats against a backdrop of eternal snow and stone, echoing the disciplined grid of Sapporo, Hokkaido's crown jewel. Jubilife City rises like a beacon in this northern expanse, its streets laid out in precise, wide boulevards that mirror Sapporo's master-planned grid from the late 19th century. Picture the engineers of old Hokkaido, charting blocks amid untamed wilderness after the Meiji government's push to develop the island. Straight avenues intersecting at right angles, plazas anchoring the heart, all designed for efficiency in a land battered by blizzards. Jubilife captures that same spirit, a hub of steel and glass where television towers pierce the sky, broadcasting news across the region, and massive TV screens flicker with the latest Pokémon battles. This isn't organic sprawl, it's calculated progress, born from Sinnoh's drive to tame the frontier. Factories hum along the edges, churning out Pokétch watches, those sleek wrist devices that track time, steps, and even Pokémon encounters, reminding every citizen of the rhythm imposed on nature's chaos. Yet beneath this modernity lurks a deeper layer, one that Jubilife shares with Sapporo, the subtle nod to resilience, where wide roads allow snowplows to clear paths year-round, and underground passages shield pedestrians from gales that howl down from the mountains. Sapporo's urban blueprint wasn't just about control, it was a canvas for cultural fusion, and Jubilife weaves that thread even tighter with Sinnoh's indigenous heartbeat, the Ainu heritage that infuses every landmark. The Ainu, Hokkaido's native people, long revered the Kamui, divine spirits embodied in bears, owls and whirlpools, their carvings and patterns adorning wooden homes and ritual tools. In Sinnoh, this reverence shapes the land itself. Consider the Great Marsh near Pastoria City, its boardwalks snaking through mist-shrouded wetlands like Ainu bear ceremonies, where participants dance to summon harmony with the wild. Or Mount Coronet, Sinnoh's colossal spine, its caverns etched with unowned script that whispers of ancient scripts akin to Ainu inkle weaving, geometric motifs repeating in endless cycles, perhaps predating even the relic era's writings from 3,000 years past. Landmarks like the Snow Point Temple stand as sentinels, their wooden beams carved with swirling patterns reminiscent of Ainu Tatari, protective motifs against evil spirits, housing the guardians of Lake Acuity. Even the Pokémon League on the mountain's peak draws from this. Its architecture, sturdy and layered like Ainu Chisei houses, layered with thatch and bark, now scaled up to cradle champions amid eternal frost. This cultural tapestry didn't emerge overnight. Rewind 500 years before the fourth generation's dawn to Hisui, the ancient name for Sinnoh, when scholars compiled the region's first Pokédex, cataloguing 238 species amid warring clans and spectral unrest. A spiritomb was sealed into an odd keystone fissure that era, bound for its 99 misdeeds plus one, its howling face a grim echo of Ainu tales of mischievous Kodama spirits haunting the woods. These foundations grounded Sinnoh as clans forged alliances, blending Ainu-inspired animism with emerging feudal structures, much like Hokkaido's transition from Ainu autonomy to Japanese settlement. Jubilife's global terminal today buzzes with ferries and flights, but its design honors that past, plazas where surveyors once mapped stars, now alive with traders invoking old blessings before voyages. Shift your gaze eastward to Veilstone City, the port hewn from unyielding stone, where the sea crashes against cliffs under a sky perpetually bruised by northern squalls. Modelled on Abashiri, Hokkaido's icy harbour, notorious for drift ice that locks the bay each winter, Veilstone embodies survival carved from adversity. Granite walls rise sheer from the water, warehouses burrowed into bedrock to defy winds that whip at over 60 kilometers per hour, their facades scarred by centuries of salt and storm. Fishermen here haul nets heavy with fibers and corsola, their boats reinforced like Abashiri's icebreakers, cutting through flows to reach open water. The city's heart, the Veilstone department store. Towers multi-storied, stocked with wares from across Sinnoh, revives, rare candies, even fossils unearthed from nearby caves, but its lower levels tunnel deep, echoing the subterranean bunkers of Abashiri's prison history, a place where the harsh climate forged unbreakable wills. Veilstone's port thrived on this brutality. Harsh northern climes forced innovation, heated docks glowing with eternal flames tended by chimchar lines, warehouses lit by lanterns mimicking Ainu rushlight holders fueled by fish oil. The gym looms nearby, its craggy facade challenging trainers, with steel types honed in forges that roar like the Abashiri River in flood. Yet peril shadows plenty. Legends speak of shipwrecks, swallowed by sudden fogs, crews rescued by Lucario packs, sensing distress from afar, their Ainu-like aura reading the land's pulse. 500 years ago, as Hisui's Pokédex scribes ventured here, they documented Pokémon adapting to the freeze. Glali forming from compacted hail, Abermasnow cloaking peaks in blizzards. Veilstone's folktales persist of a colossal Regigigas hauled across ice bridges in ancient times, its slow migration leaving stone wakes that form the city's keys. These threads, Jubilife's gridiron pulse, Ainu spirits etched into stone and snow. Veilstone's defiant harbour forms Sinnoh's cultural bedrock, a region where modernization bows to ancestral whispers, and every landmark pulses with the weight of Hisui's ghosts. As gears grind and clocks tick in these frozen forges, they hint at engines far mightier awaiting us in Chapter 17, Gala's industrial clockwork, where steam and steel birthed an empire of smoke-belching behemoths. What hidden mechanisms powered that relentless rise? as Sinnoh's landmarks wove ancient Ainu spirits into the steel grids of Jubilife City. The winds shift across the sea to Gala, where colossal clock towers pierce the smoggy skies, marking a realm forged in fire and iron. Motostoke stands at the throbbing heart of this land, its streets alive with the grind of massive gears and the distant roar of furnaces. Towering over it all rises the clock tower, a behemoth of Victorian grandeur that chimes the hours with a deep, resonant toll echoing through narrow alleys lined with brick warehouses. You might glance at its ornate face framed by 4 clock dials glowing under perpetual overcast and think of London's famous bell, but no, this is no Westminster icon. Its true muse lies further north, in the gritty soul of Manchester Town Hall, that 19th century masterpiece of Gothic revival, complete with its own astronomical clock and statues of workers toiling in the shadows. Picture the scene 2 centuries back, when Gala's factories first belched black smoke into the heavens. Coal veins snaked beneath the rolling hills, fueling steam engines that powered textile mills, and forges where Pokémon-like phalanx drilled in unison and Machop hauled ore-laden carts. Motostoke wasn't just a city, it was the beating piston of an industrial revolution. Railways snaking out like iron veins to ports where Corvick Knight hauled cargo across the channel. The clock tower emerged from this frenzy around 150 years ago. Its foundations sunk deep into bedrock to withstand the tremors of pounding machinery below. Engineers etched its mechanisms with such precision that each tick synchronized the shifts of thousands, humans and Pokémon alike, turning day into a relentless cycle of production. But gears turn, and power sources evolve. As coal reserves dwindled and skies choked thicker, Galar unearthed something revolutionary: Dynamax energy. Discovered in the Heartlands during seismic surveys for new mines, this raw force, harnessed from massive crystals pulsing with otherworldly light, replaced steam's fury. The clock tower's base now houses a Dynamax reactor, its massive turbines humming softly where pistons once screamed. Watch the hands sweep past midnight, and you'll see faint auroras dancing along the tower's spire, a nod to the Gigantamax spectacles in nearby stadiums. Motostoke Stadium, that colossal arena carved from the hillside, pulses with the same energy, its floodlights drawing power from the earth itself, transforming battles into eruptions of scaled-up fury. This shift mirrors Galar's landmarks, etched across the map. Hammerlock, with its ruined castle fused to modern battle towers, stands as a relic of feudal might repurposed for League glory, its walls channeling Dynamax flows through ancient stone. Windon gleams as the crown jewel, its elevated railways looping around skyscrapers that blend Art Deco flair with brutalist power plants, all crowned by the League's pinnacle where champions clash under energy shields. Even the wild bridges spanning chasms carry conduits glowing pink, ferrying Dynamax essence to remote outposts. Steam's era left scars, rusted hulks of old engines litter the outskirts, overgrown with vines tended by attentive gossifleur. But Dynamax breathes new life, illuminating paths once shrouded in soot. Yet amid this mechanical symphony, Galar cradles secrets older than its ironworks, venture beyond Motostoke's haze into the wild areas, and the land reveals geoglyphs, vast etchings carved into chalk downs by Pokémon paws millennia ago. These ancient figures, serpentine dragons coiling across hillsides, or herds of stampeding wooloo frozen in white lines, echo Britain's own prehistoric masterpieces, like the Uffington White Horse, galloping eternal across Oxfordshire slopes. Modernisation raced forward here too. Railways cut through valleys, stadium crowds thunder nearby, and Dynamax drills probe the soil. But Gala's stewards preserved these glyphs, fencing them reverently, their outlines sharpened annually by teams of Pokémon artists, Excadrill etching edges, Indeedee aligning stones under moonlight. One glyph near the Lake of Outrage depicts a roaring eternatus, its form predating human records, hinting at cataclysms when dark energy first scarred the earth. Railways skirt its edges without a single track invading, and viewing platforms let trainers ponder its meaning while Corvic knights soar overhead. This juxtaposition defines Galar. Factories hum beside forgotten runes, Dynamax spires rise from medieval Mott and Bailey remnants, and the Isle of Armor's dojo perches on cliffs etched with tidal symbols from eras when Lugia-like guardians shaped the seas. The British-inspired countryside, hedgerows, stone walls, misty moors, holds these layers intact, a testament to a people who build upward without erasing the past. Coal dust still lingers in Motostoke's cobbles, mingling with the ozone tang of active reactors, as Pokémon once yoked to steam engines now bask in energy baths that amplify their forms. The clock tower's chimes call not just hours but eras, steam's grind yielding to Dynamax's thunder, ancient glyphs whispering through the clamour of progress. What happens when that energy awakens something dormant in the soil, linking industrial might to primordial forces? That question pulls us forward into Chapter 18, the living history of the world, where the very earth stirs with tales of civilizations that breathe and evolve before our eyes. As Galar's clock towers ticked through eras of steam and Dynamax fury, much like Manchester's own relentless grind, you can almost hear the echoes of older worlds buried beneath those gleaming rails, worlds that rose from dust, touched the heavens, then crumbled back to earth, only to sprout anew. Consider the abyssal ruins, plunged deep into Unova's cold seas, their stone chambers etched with the oldest script humanity, or whatever came before, ever carved. 3,000 years ago, before even the whispers of Generation 5 stirred the winds, relic crowns and their kin were forged here, gleaming artifacts of a lost age, guarded by walls that still drip with the weight of forgotten oceans. Divers today brush past coral-encrusted pillars, feeling the chill of water that hasn't forgotten the hands that shaped it. Hands that built not just shelters, but monuments to something eternal. From those depths, civilizations cycled upward. 1,500 years before the Kanto Leagues sparked their first rivalries, the ruins of Alph sprang into being in Johto's misty vales, their chambers alive with unowned glyphs that twist like living smoke. Nearby, the Tanabe ruins pierced Sevi's waves, and Solacian's cradles hummed underground, all born in an age when Farfetch'd still dotted the skies in flocks thick enough to blot the sun, until hunters thinned them, a grim reminder that even plenty fades. These weren't mere hideouts, they were hubs where people and Pokémon wove fates, only for vines and tides to reclaim them, leaving puzzles for us to chase. Fast forward through Johto's medieval pulse, where Ecruteak's bell tower and brass tower clawed toward the clouds, 1,500 years before Goldenrod's bustle. Ho-Oh perched regal on the brass tower's peak, feathers shimmering like molten gold at dawn, while Lugia coiled unseen in the bell's shadow, their presence a vow of guardianship. For 550 years, they watched humanity flourish, until flames devoured the brass tower, claiming 3 Pokémon souls within. Ho-Oh, in sorrow and fury, breathed life back into them as Raiku's lightning, Entei's blaze, and Suicune's crystal streams, scattering them across the land as eternal wanderers. Lugia vanished to the Whirl Island's roaring gales, but their mark lingers, towers half ruined yet standing, anchoring Johto's soul through drought and deluge. That same era saw Kianwood's pharmacy rise sturdy against crashing surf, its shelves still stocked with brews from 500 years past, while Azalea Town withered under a 400-year thirst. Slowpokes gathered at the well, tails twitching in unison, summoning rains that broke the sky open, transforming parched earth to verdant haven, earning them thrones in the town's heart. In Sinnoh, 500 years before Jubilife's lights flickered on, a spiritomb was shackled to an odd keystone in a jagged fissure, its 99 souls howling punishment for ancient crimes. A spectral sentinel amid Hisui's wilds, where the first Pokédex tallied 238 species under starlit skies. Cycles spun faster in recent shadows. 300 years ago, Kalos's Parfum Palace bloomed with gilded spires, its halls echoing laughter over feasts that masked deeper wars. Unova, 200 years before Castilia's skyscrapers pierced the smog, rebuilt itself from flood and fortune. Village Bridge arched gracefully where a river once raged, hammered by a man and his steadfast girdure. Liberty Garden hid Victini in shadowed alcoves. The little ones V-create flame, a secret heartbeat. Driftvale's cold storage yielded to the Pokémon World Tournament's roar. Lentima's town carved homes from mountain flanks near Undella's elite villas, risen from the ashes of old Rich's manors. Paldea's tale mirrors this rise and ruin most starkly. Its empire crested alongside the Draconid zenith, the Emperor's fleets probing the great crater's maw in a great age of exploration that spanned 1,000 grueling years. Watchtowers dotted the rims like vigilant eyes, ruins now cloaked in primal scrub, whispering of an empire bankrupted by ambition's hunger. 200 years ago, Heath's band descended those sheer walls, boots crunching paradox dust at the crater's nada, unearthing Herba Mystica's iridescent shards, only for Pokémon to devour them, birthing the first titans, hulking behemoths whose roars unveiled Terrastal's crystalline fury. Even Alola, sun-kissed and seemingly timeless, bends to the wheel. Modern Pokeballs ferried trainers and their companions to its shores, sparking habitats where foreign species bloomed, evolutions twisting in volcanic soils and reef shallows. A tourism tide reshaping islands once isolated. Laverre's ancient tree in Kalos, meanwhile, has rooted for 1,500 years, its boughs cradling a city that grew like a living crown. Through every crest and crash, legendary Pokémon stand unmoved, the world's unyielding spine. Lugia and Ho-Oh didn't flee forever. They circle still, summoned by purity or peril. The legendary dogs prowl Johto's peaks and plains, embodiments of resurrection's promise. Victini flickers in Liberty Garden's glow, a spark undimmed by centuries. Spiritomb keens from its keystone prison, and in Paldea's depths, whatever slumbers in Area Zero pulses with prehistoric rhythm. They don't build or burn. They endure, marking epochs with their gaze, ensuring no fall is final. Yet amid these anchors, one shadow defies grasp, the unknown. Do they predate abyssal script, or birth it? Their forms dance in Alf's gloom, Solacen's hush, etching riddles that hint at design beyond human stroke. Alf's puzzles shift with moonlight, revealing chambers that weren't there at dawn. Tanabe's chambers align with stars unseen for millennia. Are these letters mere alphabet or architects of reality itself? Ruins to skyscrapers, empires to expeditions. We build atop their foundations, chase their legends. But what if this modern world, with its Pokeballs and Terrastal lights, unfolds still within an era they scripted eons ago? History in the Pokémon world isn't parchment or stone. It's alive, breathing through roots that crack concrete and wings that span forgotten skies. As towers topple and rise again, legendaries watch from the fringes, and unknown letters flicker just beyond sight, pulling you deeper into the cycle that never truly ends. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter,